Don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Coming at the right time. This victory over the Giants moved the New Orleans Saints to 7-7, putting them at 500 for, I want to say, a second time this season. But nevertheless, it was everything that you needed to see from the New Orleans Saints. And honestly, it was what a lot of Saints fans thought the season was going to look like at the beginning, especially when the Saints went out and they signed Derek Carr. We expected, Saints fans, I like to put myself in that number. I am a Saints fan. We all expected the New Orleans Saints to look like this all season long. We expected for the New Orleans Saints to be a top of the NFC South and it not look as hard as it has been. But it's good to see that the New Orleans Saints are still fighting. It's good to see that they can actually put a lot of things together, and a lot of positive things took place in this game. Number one, got an opportunity to see Derek Carr play his best game in a Saints uniform. He was able to deliver the ball on time. He threw the ball really, really well. You got to give credit to some of these young wide receivers that got the opportunity to play due to the fact that some of the wide receivers, the starting wide receivers of the New Orleans Saints, were down. You had Michael Thomas, who has been on IR, and also most recently Chris Olave, who suffered an ankle injury in last week's game versus the Carolina Panthers and couldn't play in the game versus the Giants. So you had guys like Lynn Bolton, players like A.T. Perry, Juwan Johnson, Key Kirkwood got into the end zone. So it was good to see the New Orleans Saints utilize some of these young players and also some of the offensive plays. You got to give credit to P. Carmichael. P. Carmichael has been, scrutinized this entire season because of the play calling, the lackluster play calling, not really being innovative, the lack of motion. Most offenses throughout the NFL you see using motion. But this game, it seemed like everything just kind of came together. I mean, there were very little mistakes that were made by the New Orleans Saints in this game, including on special teams. We know that Blake Grupe has had some struggles. Punter Luke Hitley hasn't been punting the way that you expect the NFL punter to do so. But everything just kind of came together, and there were very little mistakes in this game. And this is what people expected from this New Orleans Saints team. And right now, the Saints are riding a 2-game winning streak, and they are on a short week. They have to travel to the West Coast to take on another 7-7 team, which is the Los Angeles Rams. But let's go ahead and get into the game. Let's talk about a little bit of the tail of the tape here. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that took place in the game. I'm going to go ahead and put up some of these stats right here. This is courtesy of ESPN. So shouts out to everybody that's checking this out right now. As you can see, Derek Carr was 23 of 28, 218 yards with 3 touchdowns. He was sacked once. So the offensive line really held up in this game for Derek Carr, and Derek Carr was able to deliver on time. And also you have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, you look at Derek Carr's quarterback rating of 134.8. This is the type of numbers that you want to see, and hopefully Derek Carr can be able to put it all together going forward, because he's going to need to, because the Saints cannot afford to be slipping down the stretch. Also, I mean, you have to look at the defense as I stroll down. I mean, 7 sacks in this game. They were able to get pressure on Tommy DeVito. He was very, very uncomfortable in the pocket. You had Tano Passanio with 3 sacks. You had Brian Brzee really stepping up. He had 2 sacks. Demario Davis, I mean, he was all over the field. I want to say that head coach Dennis Allen challenged the veterans on this team earlier in the week leading up to this game versus the New York Giants. And you can tell that Demario Davis really answered the call here. I mean, it was play after play. He was getting tackled for loss. He was flying around the field. He was getting sacks. He was leading by example. And that is what you want to see from your leaders on the team, especially like when you have young players that are going to be looking at you and trying to mirror some of the things that you're doing. I mean, attitude reflects leadership. So Demario Davis understood the assignment, and you have a lot of young players that are on the defensive side of the football. They're watching that Grizzly veteran and Demario Davis fly around the field. It just gives them, the type of motivation they need to do the same thing. So I want to give credit to Demario Davis, who had 10 tackles in the game, 8 solo, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack. He also had a quarterback hit. Look, Tommy DeVito came to New Orleans. He's the starting quarterback of the Giants, which a lot of you know. He came to New Orleans with a lot of fanfare. I mean, he was the toast of the town. The game on Monday Night Football in front of a nationally televised audience against the Green Bay Packers. He facilitated a game-winning drive where he drove down the field in order for the kicker to kick a game-winning field goal, and he was giving New York fans a lot to be proud of. The fact that he is of Italian descent, where the majority of people around the New York area are of Italian descent. So that it's motivational. Not to mention he's one of their own. He played his high school championship game inside MetLife Stadium, so it was easy for them to root for him. He was coming off one of his best games. He was appointed the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. So he had all these accolades going for him, and he walked into a buzzsaw. He walked into a moment where the New Orleans Saints needed to win, and he came crashing back down to earth. So that's what you want to do. Not to say that Tommy DeVito didn't do some good things in his own right, but the New Orleans Saints, they needed this victory. They needed to look impressive. They need to be playing their best football. And it seems like they have been over the last few weeks. I want to say the Saints are like 9 of 10 in the red zone over the last 2 games. They haven't allowed a touchdown in the last 2 games. So if this defense can rise to the occasion and play really well, and you can also have complementary football coming from the offense with a balanced attack, you're using Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams in the running game, and also utilizing the play action and utilizing the middle of the field, which the New Orleans Saints have done, and also incorporating Jimmy Graham into the offense, using him in the red zone. There was a couple of touchdowns that just took place for the simple fact that Jimmy Graham was in a progression. The fact that you have to put eyes on a 6'7", 260-pound tight end, that opens up opportunities for other wide receivers to make plays. So the New Orleans Saints are doing some good things. They kind of just hit the reset button, and they're trying to figure out what works. And right now, they're playing some really good football. But one person can say, or even more, they can say that, yeah, the New Orleans Saints are on a 2-game winning streak, but it's against, at the time, a 1-win Carolina Panthers team and a New York Giants team that isn't going anywhere. And they're kind of looking at Tommy DeVito as the guy to cheer for more so than this actual season that's going absolutely nowhere for Giants fans. Look, we knew at the beginning of the season that the New Orleans Saints had an easy schedule. They had the second easiest schedule in the National Football League. And one thing that bothers me about Saints fans is when they look at this victory as low-hanging fruit. Well, my thought would be, if the New Orleans Saints would be a 10-win team at this particular point, would you have the same level of energy? Because you can't say on one hand that, they went up against the Giants and the Carolina Panthers, but also understood at the beginning of the season that they had an easy schedule. I mean, the job of a team that is competent is to beat the teams that are inferior to them at this particular point. Carolina and the New York Giants are not better football teams than the New Orleans Saints. So for any NFL team, when you go up against competition that your team is good or better than, you are supposed to hit them in the mouth, get them out of the way, and look impressive doing it. And that's what the New Orleans Saints did. This is what we expected from the New Orleans Saints at the beginning of the season. But, all that can be water under the bridge if the New Orleans Saints can somehow win these next 3 games. You have a big-time matchup versus the Rams, which we'll talk about later on in a week. I'll be doing another live here on Bleacher Report, a pregame show before that game takes place on Thursday night. But if you beat the Rams, that would be an impressive victory. That's when people are going to start looking at this team and saying, you know what, maybe they're trending in the right direction. We've seen teams who had up and down seasons and just so happen to get hot at the right time, and they go into the playoffs, they make some noise, they play their best football down the stretch in January, in February, and you might find yourself playing for something that matters, which is a world championship. Now, I'm not drinking a Kool-Aid here, okay? I'm not drinking a Kool-Aid. I'm not doing any of those things. But what I'm saying is you want to be playing your best football down the stretch. You want to be doing some of the things that you need to do in order for you to generate wins down the stretch. And I think that if the Saints can continue to play well defensively and you start to do a few things offensively until you get guys like Chris Olave and Michael Thomas back, who knows? The sky will be the limit, right? I mean, you can really make some noise. I mean, you have a championship defense. You have a championship defense that is able to neutralize teams. So if you can play really good defense and Derek Carr can manage the game the way he did on Sunday, I think that you have a chance of winning this division. Now, some Saints fans probably feel like the Saints shouldn't be thinking about the division because of all the things that are going on. Of course, you have Saints fans that are not fans of Dennis Allen as the head coach. I'm actually one of them. And honestly, I think I want to talk about that a little later in regards to why I feel this way. But you don't want to see your team lose, okay? I get it. We're talking about draft positioning. We're talking about maybe drafting a quarterback for the future. Quarterback Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner at LSU, has been on the lips of a lot of Saints fans. But I just think that if you were to keep Dennis Allen around, if you were to keep him as a head coach, I don't think that that's in the cards for the New Orleans Saints. I don't feel like they are going to try to move on or try to think about the future as long as Derek Carr is the quarterback, because it seems like Dennis Allen is just conjoined to this guy and just see something in this guy that maybe some of us seen a little bit on Sunday, but we still feel like there leaves a lot to be desired. So as long as Dennis Allen is the head coach and Derek Carr is still contractually obligated to the Saints, I don't see them drafting a quarterback in the first round. I see them maybe going after an offensive lineman, maybe going after a wide receiver or a pass rush, somebody that can help the Saints be able to reach their ultimate goal. But I just think that the Saints are more focused on building around Derek Carr, building around him offensively, finding weapons to be able to make his job a little bit more easier. So that's the way I feel like the direction the Saints are going in. And the reason I'm feeling this way is because the question is, will Dennis Allen keep his job? I think you have to say yes. I mean, based on what the Saints did yesterday, how you looked at the Los Angeles Chargers on Thursday, the way that they got beat to sleep. I mean, it was pretty obvious that, the Chargers needed to go in a different direction. You can say maybe that game against Detroit, it started off that way, but the guys started to turn it around and you started to see the guys kind of fight back. And as long as the Saints feel like the team is fighting for Dennis Allen, even though, in my opinion, I don't feel like it has anything to do with Dennis Allen, it's more so about the players and the type of respect and character that those guys have, more so than Dennis Allen being their coach. But the way that upper management may see it, they see it as the team fighting for Dennis Allen. And then as long as they feel that way, then I feel like Dennis Allen's job is going to be safe. Now, to me, this is my personal opinion. I don't feel like Dennis Allen is the future for the New Orleans Saints. I don't feel like the Saints can have sustainable success. Look, we look at Dennis Allen yesterday. He spoke to the media after the game, and he was pounding his chest. He kind of called out the media for their criticisms of Derek Carr and how fans called out Derek Carr because they booed him. And, it seemed like he took offense to that. I'm talking Dennis Allen. And, he basically said to the media, I don't think you're going to see much criticism about Derek Carr this week. So he kind of took a shot at the media. But my thing is, it's really sad when you think about it. it's really sad when you think about where this team has come from and where they are now. Around this time, a couple of years back with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, the team was talking about playoff positioning. Will they have the number one seed? Will they have a first round bye? Will they be able to win the division? In some cases, the Saints wrapped up the division by Thanksgiving. I can remember the game versus the Atlanta Falcons a couple of years ago where the Saints wrapped up the South by Thanksgiving, which was pretty unheard of at the time. We go from that as Saint fans to actually pounding our chest about beating a one-win Carolina Panthers team and a New York Giants team who has an offensive line that's put up pretty much with glue and paper, and also playing with a third-string quarterback that is also one of those guys that has been built up by New York and the New York media. As we can see, he wasn't really that good to begin with. So this is the type of place that we're all are right now as Saints fans. We are in a position where we're looking at victories like this as if it's a Super Bowl championship. But this is one of the main reasons I feel like Dennis Allen isn't the answer. The fact that he went out there and he defended Derek Carr when you're seeing him going to war with Derek Carr, but you have all these other players out here. He has no problem with calling out. He has no problem with saying anything negative about them, but he goes out his way to big up Derek Carr. He goes out his way to try to tell everybody how good he is. And he pounds on his chest about the state of the Saints, no pun intended. The fact that he feels like the New Orleans Saints are trending in the right direction. But we all know that as much as he tries to act as cocky and confident, we know that he's not going to be able to live up to the hype. Here's the reality. When you look at Dennis Allen is 14-17 as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Overall, he is 25-54 as a head coach. So the fact is, Dennis Allen can get mad at the media. Dennis Allen can get mad at fans for booing the quarterback. Dennis Allen can get mad at the fact that Saints fans want him to be fired. But he has nobody to blame but himself. And I just feel like if the New Orleans Saints are looking at if the New Orleans Saints are looking at Dennis Allen and feeling like he is going to be the future of this franchise as the head coach, that's just wishful thinking. We all know the inevitable. And here's also the reality. He has a losing record against teams that are above 500. So if the New Orleans Saints just so happen to win the division, let's just say they win the division, they go to the playoffs, they host a playoff game, that means the New Orleans Saints will be playing a championship schedule. They will be playing against teams who have won their division. Those would be teams that have been above 500 on several occasions, not just last year, not just year before last. They're going to be playing against teams that are legit Super Bowl contenders. And we've seen that anytime that Dennis Allen, for the most part, goes up against a coach that knows what he's doing, he gets slapped around. So the New Orleans Saints can look at this as Dennis Allen turning a corner and finding himself as a head coach. I look at it like how we should have looked at it the entire season. He is being a recipient of a simplistic schedule, right? He already 7-7 with a simplistic schedule. That tells you everything that you need to know. So I don't want to hear anything about players are being hurt, and that's the reason why. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. Because the first pillar started to fall around week 10 when Michael Thomas left the game against Minnesota. So that was 10 games that the New Orleans Saints had an opportunity to gain control of the NFC South, and he couldn't do it. He could not do it as a head coach. So imagine what will happen when the Saints have a championship schedule, because Dennis Allen is fighting for the New Orleans Saints to win this division and save his job. And also the fact that Dennis Allen was willing to go out there and show everybody that last week when he brought out Jameis Winston to take a knee was intentional, because the fans were booing Derek Carr. We all know that that was the reason why. Now, Dennis Allen tried to sell the media that they always alternate quarterbacks to take a knee, but we know that wasn't the case. We know in the middle of that game versus Carolina, Saints fans were chanting that they wanted Jameis. And out of spite, Dennis Allen decides to bring Jameis out to take a knee, and in a way, because the Saints pretty much had the game well in hand, that was his way of saying, well, you want Jameis? Well, here he is. He can go out there and take a knee after Derek Carr leads the team to victory. The reality is that Dennis Allen is talking hot stuff as if he's hot-ish, but we all know that he's not. And we know that the bottom is going to fall out because he's not that good of a coach. He never will be that good of a coach. And honestly, the Saints, just like they're doing with their salary cap situation, they're kicking the can down the road. They're kicking the can down the road, and they're trying to make Saints fans believe that Dennis Allen is the answer. Guys have checked out. They're not playing for him. They're playing for each other. The Saints are being the benefactors of a locker room with high character. It has very little to do with Dennis Allen, but they can pretend that it is. But next year in 2024, when they bring him back and the New Orleans Saints after 5 games look like mere shells of themselves because guys don't respect your head coach, then we're going to be sitting up here saying the same thing that the Charger fans are saying. If they would have got rid of Brandon Staley earlier, we probably would have got ourselves a better coach. If Dennis Allen would have been let go by the end of this season, no matter what's going on, you have a large enough sample size to see that he is not the answer. You have a large enough sample size to know that he's not the answer. Instead of you deciding to move on from him at the end of the season and keeping him, you're just setting the team back. Everybody knows that. I know it. Saints fans know it. The only people that don't seem to know it is Dennis Allen and the Saints management team. But all in all, I'm not upset with a victory. The most important thing about playing football is getting victories. Nobody remembers how many points you won by as weeks progress. The only thing that matters is wins and losses, and the New Orleans Saints got it done. No doubt about that. Let's go ahead and look again at some of the stats once more. Get it to it. Talk a little bit about some of the team stats that took place. One thing that stood out to me was the third down efficiency by the New Orleans Saints. They were 50% on third down, 6 of 12. And you look at the New York Giants, they held the New York Giants to 2 of 16 on third down. Total plays was almost pretty much even, 61 for the Giants, 58 for the Saints. Total yards, 296 total yards to the Giants, 193. Much better than the 207 yards that the New Orleans Saints had versus the Carolina Panthers the week before. Also, no team, had a turnover in this game. Both teams went without an interception. But both of these teams came into the game. They were tied for most turnovers in the league. Both teams had 22 turnovers. So that was a good thing. Neither team turned the ball over. So that's a plus on both sides. And also with the red zone, the Saints were 2 of 2 in the red zone, something that has been plaguing the New Orleans Saints for quite some time throughout this entire season. It's amazing what happens when you bring in Jimmy Graham. And I find it funny also that I find it very funny also when you think about it, when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, when it comes to Dennis Allen. It's amazing to me how he wants to beat on his chest about, it's a great decision to keep going with Derek Carr as the quarterback and all this stuff he was talking about. But it's just amazing to me how he doesn't want to he wants to criticize the media for their opinions on Derek Carr, but he doesn't want to commend the media for constantly asking him over and over again about bringing Jimmy Graham out there on the field when the Saints were struggling in the red zone. The fact that you had Jimmy Graham, one of the best red zone threats of the modern era, on your team, and he was a healthy scratch week after week after week. And now all of a sudden you decide to put Jimmy Graham into the lineup. Now all of a sudden you're making it seem like you're just some kind of genius or something. These are the type of things that Saints fans look at. This is the type of stuff that the media looks at. And when he's trying to grandstand and hot dog and big up himself and try to pop his ish off about how the team looks, as if he made this amazing discovery about Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham has always been a red zone threat. To me, that's coaching incompetence in his own right. The fact that you probably wouldn't even been in this situation. And it's not like you didn't see this at the beginning of the season. You should have, looked at this, and it should have came cause to pause when you seen Jimmy Graham score a touchdown versus the Green Bay Packers a couple weeks when the season was pretty early. But instead of you using him, you decided that you wanted to make your boy Derek Carr happy. You don't think that Derek Carr probably wanted Foster Monroe to be starting? That was his homeboy, right? The fact that you decided to keep Juwan Johnson out there, even though Juwan Johnson wasn't playing well, but you had him out there for the simple fact that, I don't know, he was making a certain amount of money. So this is the type of culture that is going to be affecting the New Orleans Saints. Like, it shouldn't just be about guys making money. It shouldn't just be about guys draft positioning. It should be about who is the best player on the field, who gives you the best chance to win. And anybody could see that anytime Jimmy Graham is in the lineup, something positive happens. Rather, he's going to get a first down or he's going to get a touchdown. But instead, you're going to act like this is some award-winning discovery, like, I don't know, like, Newton's law of physics, or I don't know, Alexander Graham Bell inventing the telephone or something. Like he just came up with this amazing discovery. If we use Jimmy Graham in the red zone, we'll find success. It's just stuff like that. Like, if you're going to criticize the media, how about giving them some props when they kept lobbying for Jimmy Graham week after week? I know I have been lobbying for Jimmy Graham. I know Saints fans have been lobbying for Jimmy Graham. But instead, you want to sit up here and grandstand and hot dog about one game that came in week 15. 15 weeks, you had an opportunity to put forward a performance like this. Now, all of a sudden, we're at the tail end of the season. Now you want to beat on your chest and talk about how great you are or how good the team looks. Well, right now, the Saints are fighting for their playoff life. So if you would have made some of these decisions earlier in the season, then maybe the Saints wouldn't be in this situation. That is why Saints fans feel like this is an indictment on Dennis Allen. This is one of the main reasons why they feel like he's not going to be able to get the best out of this team. This is the reason why Saints fans are clamoring for change, because Dennis Allen, even though the defense looks spectacular, even though the defense looks pretty unstoppable as of right now, it is not sustainable success. We know that Dennis Allen will put together a game plan for a couple weeks, get Saints fans excited, and then all of a sudden they'll go up against a coach that knows what he's doing and a team that is offensively efficient, defensively efficient, and they get slapped in the mouth. People are tired of dealing with this situation when it comes to Dennis Allen. I hope that the Saints make the right decision, even though I don't think so. It seems like they drag their feet about a lot of things going on. It seems like they have a wait-and-see approach. I don't know what you're waiting and seeing about, because Dennis Allen is not that good of a coach. Yeah, you'll probably win some games, but you're going to lose a lot more. And you're going to lose games that actually have meaning, because neither he nor this quarterback and Derek Carr, do I feel, are going to lead the Saints anywhere. And the fact that we're celebrating such a mediocre win, the fact that we're actually celebrating as a fan base, playing against a New York Giants team that came into the game 3 games below 500. But the Saints are celebrating this victory as if they just sold up the South. People are tired of feeling this way. People are tired of feeling as if there is no hope. And people are not taking the bait. We cheer for this team because we love the Saints, but nobody is checking for Dennis Allen. And honestly, if the Saints bring him back, Saints fans are going to have a wait-and-see approach when it comes to this team. They'll cheer for him from their couch. They'll celebrate the team. They'll be happy for the team, but they're not going to be investing in this team when they know that the inevitable is Dennis Allen not being able to lead this team anywhere. It's a good victory. Don't get me wrong. 24-6 was impressive. And the fact that he was able to coach this type of performance, I mean, it's nothing to, it's nothing to like breeze past. But we know that when it comes to Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints, we know inconsistency is the name of the game. I want to thank everybody for being here, those that are here. Special shout out to those that actually took part in the poll. The question of the day is, will Dennis Allen keep his job? 67% say no, 33% say he will. Well, only time will tell, but I can tell you this. If the Saints continue to look the way that they have over the last 2 games, it's going to be hard for Mickey Loomis to get rid of Dennis Allen down the stretch, because I really feel like Mickey Loomis looks at this New Orleans Saints team and he looks at them defensively and feels like they have a chance. I look at more so that Pete Carmichael is going to be the scapegoat at the end of the season. The reason why the Saints aren't successful is because Pete Carmichael couldn't get the best out of the offense. So we're going to get rid of him, bring in another offensive coordinator that can put together a new offensive game plan, make the offense more explosive, and then we're going to bring back Dennis Allen coaching the defense, and the next thing you know, the Saints are going to find success. I don't know that that's going to be the case, because no matter if you bring in an offensive coordinator or not, it's all going to come down to coaching, making the necessary adjustments. When you go up against teams that know what they're doing, going up against championship teams with a championship schedule, I just think that there's a pecking order to this. There's levels to this. And to be honest with you, Dennis Allen is not on that level. So I feel like you're just setting yourself up. You're kicking a can down the road, and eventually you're going to be trying to find a brand new coach, because fans are going to check out, and I feel like players are going to check out as well. You can kind of see players kind of checking out anyway. I was checking out the interview with Alvin Kamara after the game, and, you know, he talked about the victory, but it don't seem like he was that impressed with the victory. It seemed like, you know, when it was asking him questions about the play calling, it was more so about it wasn't any rhyme nor reason, you know, and also when he talked about the identity, the question was asked to him about the team offense having an identity. He still feels like they don't. I mean, it's more so with the New Orleans Saints. It's more so about throwing something against the wall and hoping that it sticks. The Saints don't have an identity. They basically just kind of run plays without rhyme nor reason. And that's the reason, you know, they find success from time to time. But we all know that this team doesn't have an identity. They basically just do whatever to win. And, you know, when you don't have an identity, it's only a matter of time before you get slapped in the mouth, or, you know, just actually gets wiped off the field. So you can continue to win, but you're not going to win anything, in my opinion, as long as you have Dennis Allen as your coach. And the fact that he's celebrating wins versus teams that aren't going anywhere pretty much sums it up, in my opinion. But the New Orleans Saints next game they have against the Los Angeles Rams should be an interesting game. Sean McVay has the Rams looking pretty good. Unfortunately, they got the loss last week versus the Washington Commanders. And not the Washington Commanders, but the Baltimore Ravens. You know, that was they went into overtime and a special teams return for a touchdown cost them the game. But they played really, really good in that game, and they really impressed. So the Saints are going to have to bring their A game if they're going to knock off this Rams team. They're playing inspired as of right now. If the playoffs started today, they'll be the 7th seed. So the Saints are going to have to come with it. If the Saints beat the Rams, then who knows? You know, there's a strong chance that the New Orleans Saints may even be able to get into the playoffs as a 7th seed. But they'll probably have to win 2 out of their next 3 in order for that to happen, and they're probably going to need some help down the stretch. But you shouldn't focus on needing help down the stretch. You control your own destiny right now. And honestly, the fact that the Saints control their own destiny, this tells you everything you need to know about Dennis Allen as a coach. Like, you know that every win matters, right? So if you can't generate wins, if you can't have your team prepared, knowing what the task at hand is, and you have to approach each game like it's a postseason game down the stretch. If the Saints come in unprepared and not ready to play, or, you know, you see signs of inconsistency down the stretch, I think this pretty much should tell you everything that you need to know about Dennis Allen. But this is the Saints coaching. This is the Saints front office, rather, that we're dealing with. And we know that sometimes they drag their feet, even when things are right there in their face and pretty obvious. But I want to say thank you all for checking out this episode here on the Bleacher Report, talking about Saints football. We'll be back on Thursday for the pregame show here on Bleacher Report to talk about the Saints Week 16 matchup versus the Los Angeles Rams. What will be the keys to victory? Do I see the New Orleans Saints getting their 3rd straight win of the season down the stretch? How do I see the Saints faring going forward with 2 divisional games after the game versus the Rams? Come on back to Bleacher Report. We'll be talking about it on Thursday. Also, you can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at TJAYJones8. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy this week. Saints get the victory. Enjoy it for the next couple of days as the New Orleans Saints travel to the West Coast, to Los Angeles, to take on the Rams. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?